Okay. This is, once again, the weekly rant from the Midnight Skeptic. And this will all be going out on the radio, kpca.fm, worldwide, and locally here in Sonoma County, 103.3 FM. And then, as soon as I get done recording this, I will download it to YouTube for the edification, education, and hopefully amusement of all of my thousands and thousands of listeners out there. And the radio portion of this will go out on Sunday, the 13th, at 9 p.m., the usual time, Pacific Standard Time, and it will be midnight on the East Coast, where some of my most loyal followers follow me and this broadcast. And today is Thursday, the 10th of April, and it's about 10 minutes to 7 o'clock in the evening. Okay. As I have said many times before on many past shows, my goal in this show, as I have said before, is to help to rid this country of Republican MAGA heads, extremist conservatives, and fundamentalist evangelical Christians, especially those, I'm going to say this, stupid Christians who believe in biblical inerrancy. In other words, there's no mistakes in the Bible. It is exactly like God said. Well, it's not. And hopefully, a lot of you will have run across the book Misquoting Jesus by Bart Ehrman, Ehrman. Just take a look at that. Throughout history, there have been mistranslations and just sloppy scribes that were not very good at translating or writing down exactly what was in the thing that they were supposed to be copying. Okay, enough of that for right now. I acknowledge humbly that there are Republicans that in other less Trumpian times have sincere socioeconomic beliefs in how relationships between citizens, businesses, and the government should be. Hell, I'm still a registered Republican from way back. I will age myself more specifically later on in the show when I talk about what I said I was going to lead with on my Facebook page. I list every show that I'm going to be doing and roughly what I'm going to be talking about. This posting on my Facebook page said as a lead-in, I was raised by racists. Okay, I stand by that. And I'm going to have to get into life in the 50s and 60s, or even before the 50s. I was born in 1943. Later for all that. Okay, I'm off my notes already. Hell, still a registered Republican in 64. I was in the Navy in 1962. And I turned 21 in 1964, and I forget exactly where I registered. I think it was in the commander's outer office. I think that's where they registered sailors to vote. And back in those days, Republicans, to my mind, were not a bad thing. We had just come out of the Eisenhower era and into the John F. Kennedy presidential era. And he was assassinated, unfortunately, in 1963. And I've got to say that I was not really a fan of the Kennedys and all of this mishigas about Camelot and the beautiful people that were in the Kennedy administration and his beautiful wife and all of that kind of crap that has nothing to do with it. That sort of thing turned me off. And there were good Republicans back then. Robert Dole, Dewey, who's the... Anyway, I can't think of any more right now, but this is part of the opening rant. Okay. I'm still a registered Republican. That disclaimer out of the way, let the ranting begin. Play and music. Coming up.
You are listening to KPCA LP, Petaluma, California, at 103.3 FM and worldwide at www.kpca.fm. And this is the Midnight Skeptic. The views of the Midnight Skeptic are not, repeat, not necessarily the views of KPCA or any of its affiliates.
Okay, after all these initial rants, I will go into, like right now, how I was raised by racists. It's kind of my early life, really. And like I say, I was born in 1943, and there's a little story behind that. And then after this, I don't know, I hope it doesn't take any more than 6 or 7 minutes, because I want to get to next my shout outs and then the meat of the show. Okay. My mom, who I loved dearly, and her parents, my granddaddy and Nana, moved to Stockton from the town of Corcoran in, I'm not sure the year they moved here, but they rented a fairly small 2-bedroom house near Yosemite Park. If you're a Stockton resident, you will know where that is. And the household consisted of Nana and Granddaddy, my mom, her younger sister by 2 years, and me. But, okay, me coming along a little later. Mom was at College of Pacific, which is still there in Stockton, but it's called University of Pacific now. My aunt spent her, I think, junior and senior year, or maybe just her senior year, at Stockton High School. But anyway, World War II was going strong, and there was an airfield in Stockton Airfield, which is now kind of a airline hub. I'm not sure whether it's international or not, but it's there. Okay, back then, there were a lot of Air Force personnel that flooded into Stockton Airfield. I think they called it Army Air Corps back then, which eventually morphed into the Air Force. But there were servicemen, horny servicemen, wandering around and discovering College of the Pacific and all of the co-eds. A lot of the guys that were there joined the Army or Navy or whatever. And so I think there was a surplus of women at College of Pacific. Anyway, this sergeant, who was a very good dancer, came to a dance, met my mom, and dated for a while. I'm not sure of all the details of it, but the summer of 1942, between 1942 and 43, that summer, they eloped to Reno and got married. I'm sure my Nana and Granddaddy were appalled, or at least not in favor of it. Anyway, 9 months to the very day I came aboard this world. And so Mom and my biological dad got transferred to Fort Deming in New Mexico. And he was there for a while, he and Mom and I. And he got transferred to Hawaii. And Mom and I moved back in with Nana and Granddaddy in their Stockton house. And Tita and my aunt was still there, and she was attending College of the Pacific by that time. And so that was the household. Well, Mom found out somehow that he had an affair with this Navy nurse. And I think that they eventually got married. Okay, I'm not sure about that. But Mom divorced him, and so there I am, this little snotty kid. And so for the next 5 years, I was, raised by Nana and Granddaddy and Mom and my aunt. Mom got a job with Ma Bell, which is now AT&T. Before the big breakup, the Bell telephone system was the only phone company in the United States, except for these little local places. Anyway, Mom met my stepdad, and he was an engineer for the Bell Telephone Company, and they're in Stockton. And they dated for a while. She was the sort of the, I don't know, she was very beautiful in my unbiased opinion. So she was the kind of the queen of the Bell Telephone there in Stockton. And unfortunately, guys who looked ahead and wanted to marry her, well, I was the curse that came along with her. Okay, anyway, my stepdad and Mom got married in 1950. I was 7. And, okay, so that's the setup for this whole thing. We were living in more or less the north part of Stockton, and which is I don't know, for want of a better word, the white area. South Stockton was where the blacks, the Filipinos, the Latin Americans lived. And so Mom and Dad bought their first, small house up in the far northern part of Stockton, out Pacific Avenue, if you're familiar with Stockton. And so I got to attend a more modern school, beginning in 2nd grade. And I went there to Lincoln School all the way up through the beginning of 7th grade, 2nd through 7th, 5 years. Count them, 5. And I remember Okay, that's the whole setup for this thing. There were 4 incidents that, for whatever reason, they stick in my mind. And as a little kid, uh, they meant nothing to me at the time. And I don't know why I remember these so vividly, but let me relate them to you. Before I go on with that, Granddaddy was originally from Alabama, and Nana was from a relatively wealthy family in Texas. She had another younger sister and 2 brothers. And that was the family. The Rutlands. I don't need to go into Nan and Granddaddy's actual names, but okay. Granddaddy and Nana and I in the back seat. No seat belts, no child seats at that time. I don't know how old I was, maybe 8 or 9. But for whatever reason, we were driving in the south area of Stockton. And we drove by this city-owned park with a swimming pool in it. And there were a lot of little black kids, as there are in parks. And for no real reason, Granddaddy said, "Just look at all that alligator bait." Oh, Jesus. Now, it's a horrible thing to say, but I guess that was a saying down south in Alabama, in the solid South. And I didn't realize the import of it. I realized by his tone of voice that he was attempting to make a joke, but, I'm clueless, just a clueless, snot-nosed little kid. I didn't know. So that was incident number 1. Incident number 2 was from my stepdad. Again, I was a little bit older, maybe 10 or 11. I'm not sure. But we were driving down in the south area of Stockton, and there was this kind of grossly overweight black lady dressed in what best can be described as Goodwill rags or whatever, walking down the sidewalk. I don't know where she was going, but Dad kind of made a comment to both Mom and me. "There goes our equal." That's kind of mean. And he was making a reference to Martin Luther King Jr.'s and his civil rights crusades. And again, what do I know? And he wasn't joking. He was kind of, semi-angry. And Mom didn't say anything. I didn't know to say anything. It just was kind of over my head. Later, and I don't know how much later, in our kitchen, small house, North Stockton, my stepdad made a comment, I guess after listening to the news. I may have been a lot older because Martin Luther King Jr. was about to receive the Nobel Peace Prize. And I guess there were discussions about his contributions to the civil rights movement and the voting rights movement. But Dad said, in reference to Martin Luther King Jr., "Is this the guy who's going to win the Nobel Prize for stirring up all that trouble down in the South? Okay, that was incident number 3. I've forgotten incident number 4. Oh, Mom. Now, I love Mom dearly, and she was not a mean person at all. Except I thought as a teenager to me occasionally. That's another whole thing. But she occasionally I heard her make a comment when a black person was on TV for whatever reason. They weren't common, but she would say something to the effect that, boy, he's as black as the ace of spades. Now, it is a horrible comment, but she didn't say it in a mean way. It was just observational. Okay. Now, that would not go over well at all. Oh, and okay. Another incident. We got a television set fairly early, like in 1952 or so. It was kind of a new thing back then. You remember the television antennas on top of our houses? But we had one, and Nana and Granddaddy would come over occasionally, especially on Sunday nights, to watch the Ed Sullivan Show. And Ed Sullivan didn't hesitate to put a black entertainer on his show. He was noted for that. And after their performance, giving them a big hug, and for the women, a kiss on the cheek. Okay, and this one singer, and I can't remember her name, who had a beautiful voice, and kind of like everybody, including Nana and Granddaddy, knew her voice, but they hadn't seen her. And I guess her records or music was played on the radio, because they had a radio. I remember listening to, after I came home from school in first grade, listening to a soap opera with Nana called One Man's Family. Yeah, early soap opera. Okay, anyway, Nana and Granddaddy came over, and we began to watch the Ed Sullivan Show on this particular evening. And this black singer lady came on, Ed Sullivan introduced her, and Nana, I won't say freaked out, but she said this, which hangs with me to this very day. And I'm going to try to imitate her voice, unsuccessfully probably. Let me take a sip of milk first. Okay. This is exactly what Nana said. Why, she's a Negra. Okay. Does that make any difference today? No. Thank goodness. But it made a difference to her. Because, nobody from the South likes to watch black people on television. That's why there was such a delay from the spineless network executives that ran NBC, CBS, and ABC. Anyway, that is, growing up with Nana and Granddaddy and Mom and Tita, nobody told me that, stay away from black people or they're evil or whatever they wanted to say. They never said that. And I was just totally unaware, basically, of this whole other world out there. We lived in white bread suburbia. And so that's being raised by racists. And I love my grandparents from the South. And I totally love my mom and especially my aunt. And my aunt and her husband, who was in the Navy, he was a Seabee, World War II, at the end of World War II. After Mom and my stepdad got married, there was talk that he didn't really want me to be part of the package. So my aunt, my younger aunt, and my uncle almost agreed to take me and raise me as their own. Nana, my grandmother, Mom's mom, wouldn't hear of it. Okay, so I was a burden, as you can hear. Anyway, that's the story. I was raised by racists. Okay. I got to do my shout outs. I'm going to try to get through them real quick. All right. Sadie and Maggie, Ralph Scott, audiobook producer, Squeaky Cheese Production is his company. Tom and Nancy Throw. I tutored their daughter, who now has a daughter in 5th grade at the school my kids went to. So I'm still privately tutoring, and she's my my second generation tutoring student. Okay, enough of that. John Crowley, he's with Aquas Cafe. He sponsored the Written Word Gathering yesterday, Wednesday. I went to it because I am a budding novelist, which I will go into the details on another show, not now. Anyway, it was interesting. There was about 50 people there, and they broke into, after this introduction game, they went into conversational smaller units. Ralph Scott was there with his audio book production company, and other things. Okay, it was a good late afternoon gathering. Okay, Rich and Kathy, Dave and Rosita, Kevin and Lori, Tim Conrad. These are all local people who have said at one time or another that they listened in to this ranting. Okay. Okay. Rabbi Ted Feldman of B'nai Israel. My wife and I used to go to his night classes, learned a lot about Zionism and Israel through him. And Art Kuznets, who I met there at B'nai Israel. Mickey Huff, who is the guiding light behind Project Censored. He's back at Ithaca College now in upstate New York. And Nolan Higdon and Andy Lee Roth, who are both history professors but at UC Santa Cruz. They have some sort of a hand in the production of Project Censored. Go to their website, projectcensored.org, and order the State of the Free Press book 2025. It comes out once a year. Very interesting. Okay, Nariman and Shahar, who is the owner of La Dolce Vita Wine Lounge. And that's where I also reconnected with Tony and Christine Lombardi, who has a very small production winery, 2 wines, Chardonnay and Pinot Noir, both excellent. They source their grapes from, well, I'm not sure where, but okay, I'm off my notes. Oh, Tom Gaffey who is the godfather at the Phoenix Theater here in Petaluma, to the alternative scene of alternative teens. He has skateboard ramps set up in the where the seats used to be down when it was a theater. Okay? All right. And, okay, I am officially off my shout-out notes, so I am going to try to do it sans notes. Okay. Dennis and Megan down in Tiburon. Okay. San Francisco, Yvonne and Rick. Pacifica, Stan and Kathy. Stan's a retired city attorney of Daly City. Further on down to L.A., the Valley. Aunt Jackie and her daughter Samantha, kindergarten teacher, and her younger sister Melanie. I'm not sure if Melanie is still in Austin, Texas or not. I don't know. I got to send her a Facebook message and ask her, where you living at now, girl? Okay. My brother Brandon and his wife Mina and his daughter Andrea and her husband Tim and their 3 little athletic boys. Brandon, if you happen to be listening to this rant, believe me when I say not all Republicans are everything that I've said about them. I'm referring to mainly Republican politicians and fundamentalist Christians, which you are not, I know. And everything I've said on these rants, putting down MAGA heads and GOP Republicans, I stand by all of them. And I realize that there are sincere, thinking Republicans who just have different opinions than I do. Okay. Arkansas, Shannon Reed, and down to Florida, Nelson and Oz Slidell. Nelson's a retired U.S. Public Health Service officer, and across to Amelia Beamer on the east coast of Florida. She is a novelist herself, a editor, a mentor to budding novelists that I have had her edit my earlier chapters in my novel. And she occasionally goes on YouTube to let us know about Focus, F-O-C-U-S, magazine. They review books of the 3 genres, science fiction, fantasy, and horror, if you're into those types of books. Okay, up to Raleigh-Durham, Dr. Dave Rubin, a retired physician, who is the world's greatest, finest, most knowledgeable pulmonary physician. And he is retired and doing his artwork now. Okay, Long Island, further up the coast, to Geraldine Goldfinger, my late wife's best friend. And back on the West Coast, up Highway 108 to Sonora, California. Sonora's where I went to high school. And Robert Finnegan, Bob Fisher, and Sandy Fisher, their 2 kids, Brad and Martha. And Darrell Larson, our bronc riding classmate. Judy May, Kathy Francis, Lynn Quayle, who splits her time between Manhattan and Sonora. Boy, what a contrast. And all the way up further, Highway 108 to Twain Hart, John Gleason and his partner up there, and his two daughters who don't live up there. Tiffany is living in Colorado now, and Jennifer, I'm not sure where she's living now. It used to be Oakland, and she works for Wells Fargo. And last but not least, all the way down to Mexico City, Rosamaria Lopez Negrete, who is not, as far as I know, a big fan of the newly elected president of Mexico, Claudia Sheinbaum. And I have not heard from Rosamaria in about 5 or 6 months. But I've got to send her a DM message, FB message, Facebook message, asking her, well, how does she feel about Claudia Sheinbaum now, since the president of Mexico is standing up to the orange sociopathic bloat bag who is our president? Good for Claudia. Okay. Whew. Shout outs. I got through them all. All right. Now, after a sip of milk, to the meat of the show. Okay. A good website to check out and sign up for their newsletter. Democracy Docket. It was founded by attorney Mark Elias and his law firm. It is the best at holding the orange sociopathic bloat bag and the GOP accountable through the court system. They've filed a lot of suits, winning almost all of them. Okay, excellent news. New Orleans Saints player Kalen Saunders, Khalen Saunders. He's 28 now, still with the New Orleans Saints. He looks like a lineman. And he is launching a football youth camp designed to welcome LGBTQ participants. He announced it on the 2025 GLAAD Media Awards show on March 27th. He is partnering with the NFL Pride organization. Okay. Good news. Pussy Riot has come to New York to shout, "Wake up, America!" Literally shout that out in the streets. They came on April 5th, which was the day of anti-Trump and Musk protests all over the U.S. and all over the world. Okay? They took part trying to wake us the hell up. Good news. Look it up online and perhaps follow Talking Points Memo. It was founded, I didn't write the year down. But anyway, yes, I did. December 12th of 2000. The founder was Hee Jae Lim, Heejaelim. That's a Korean name, and she immigrated to this country. I don't know exactly when, but she was a lot younger and went to school here. And she hired Josh Marshall to be the editor-in-chief. And it is a weblog. And I wrote down TPM. I don't know what that means. Something media. Anyway, They are a news agglomerator with a fairly left-leaning viewpoint about things. Okay. All right. A couple of weeks ago, I started a new segment on my Midnight Skeptic show called Crazy Questions on Quora. Now, if you're not familiar with Quora, that's a site where you can sign up for it and ask it questions, no matter how stupid the questions are. And they have people lined up to answer these questions. And I go to it. I mean, it just comes into my email anyway. So I look. Most of the questions are about military things, Civil War things. Was Stonewall Jackson a better general than Robert E. Lee or whatever? And okay, that's one series of questions. And then World War II questions. Is whose tank better than a Russian T-1000 tank? I'm not into those things. I skip over those questions. Okay, another one is biblical questions from fundamentalist Christians. You know, in the Bible, when it says blah, 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 how do we know that that's true? You know, things like that. Okay, and was Jesus real? Okay, and then another category of questions is obviously sent in by a MAGA head and is putting down progressives and liberals. And don't Democrats know that Trump is right? You know, questions like that. And then there's another bunch of questions that were kind of obvious to me that they were sent in by Russian bots from their, internet hackers. Okay. And so that's it. And I'm going to pick out 2, maybe 3 crazy Quora questions, relate them to you, and have a condensed version of the answer guy or woman, whoever answers these things. Generally, they are sincere in trying to answer the questions, no matter how stupid they are. And there's some snarkiness that creeps into the answers guy. Okay, all right. First one, crazy questions on Quora from an obvious MAGA head. And it was on March 4th. Joe Biden. Okay, I got to do my voice. This is, okay, I have 2 voices. A whiny voice for the biblical literalists and a right-wing hate voice for the MAGA heads. Okay, this is a MAGA head question. Joe Biden is the reason why everyone points and laughs at America. Why can't liberals see that? Okay, the answer. And to me, he or she is being very calm about this. You are right. We did laugh. But at what? Okay, a reminder, calmly, of Trump and his promises in the debate with Kamala Harris to, on day 1, I will blah, blah, blah. And so anyway, he or she went on to answer the question that actually people around the world are laughing at the orange sociopathic bloat bag administration. Okay. And, okay, new topic. Woke, which I consider myself to be. Okay, the origins of it. And about 2 years ago, I kind of went into this, but it's worth repeating. And then, but it's a term that's been subsumed by the GOP for their own nefarious purposes. Okay. In 1931, 9 African American boys who were riding the rails along with about a dozen other white kids, including 2 white girls, in a boxcar, which was quite common back in those days of the Depression. They were looking for, work, a better life, because their parents at home just couldn't afford to feed and raise them anymore. So they were all in this boxcar, and racial animus broke out. A little fight started, and these 2 white girls, when they stopped in the town of Paint Rock, Alabama, the 2 girls got off, ran to a sheriff's office, and accused the black boys of raping them. And they were called hobos. I mean, the kids that were on the trains, including older guys or girls. Hoboing was the thing to do if you were just poor back in those days. Anyway, the sheriffs and his posse, I guess, showed up, took these 9 black kids into custody. They were put on trial in the town of Scottsboro, and they were, of course, found guilty. All white jury. They were imprisoned. A couple of them were sent up to New York to serve their time. That's where this folk singer, black folk singer, Leadbelly, first met up with them. He went to visit them because it was a big thing. Southern, rapists in our prisons now. And he talked to them and then went back down to Scottsboro to visit the rest of the 9 guys. And his parting comment to them was, you boys best stay woke. Okay, the word woke did not mean what the Republicans have made it mean now. What he meant was, don't call attentions to yourselves, especially don't stand out and invite trouble from the sheriffs or anything like that. Just keep a low profile and just watch out for, injustices and, how things are down south in the Jim Crow era. Okay, and then I will go into how woke morphed into a tool for Republicans to use against polite society. Okay. In a future show. Okay. Hypocrisy news. I know. I said on last week's show that I wouldn't talk anymore about the pastors, the priests, Republican politicians, and other scumbags that have been arrested for sex offenses with children. But a Chick-fil-A franchisee, Chick-fil-A, his name is Stacy Lee Austin. He's 49 years old. He drove 400 miles to meet a 15-year-old boy for sex. Oh, okay. And Chick-fil-A is the most virulent anti-LGBTQ fast food chain ever. Okay. It is I got about 8 more minutes. Okay, I'm going to have to skip a big chunk of this, and it's a history lesson how the GOP is what it is today, a cult of hate, cruelty, and meanness. And my initialism for that is HCM. I'm trying to get that started as a badge to be plastered on the Republican political party. Um, okay, hatred, cruelty, and meanness. Um, because of they're picking on minorities through GOP bills intended to hurt minorities, no matter how small the minority is. The Republican Party's obsession with the transgender community, even though they're less than 0.8% of the population. And even less, well, no, less than 1.2% of minors under 8 years old are consider themselves transgender. Okay, that chunk I'm going to save for another show. Okay, bad, crazy Christian doctors news in Texas, of course. And both of these doctors, I'm going to talk about two of them, have been lauded and praised by RFK Wormbrain Jr., who is the HHS Secretary, Health and Human Services. Okay, he had nothing but good to say about these two doctors. Okay, the first one, Dr. Richard Bartlett was disciplined by the Texas medical regulator, whatever that means, for inappropriate use of bacteria and steroid treatments. His book, he wrote a book called The Journey of a Medicine Man. A Doctor Confirms Miracles. And he's a devoted Christian, evangelical, fundamentalist type who wants to keep God in medicine. Okay, number two, bad, crazy Christian doctor from Texas, Ben Edwards, MD. He calls himself just a small town family doctor at a clinic that he founded, Veritas Wellness. He is an quote unquote old school practitioner and looks at his patients without doing any blood tests. Maybe he doesn't have the facilities there. I don't know. He could always send it out to a hospital. Okay. But asks a lot of his patients about their food intake and nutritional habits, exercise habits and all that. But he observes them, which is a good thing to do. But he's right in the middle of the measles outbreak. And he recommends cod liver oil, which is not a bad thing to take once in a while. And he recommends vitamin A and D substitutes. More of the kids down in the West Texas part where the measles outbreak is are suffering from the damage to their liver because of vitamin A overdoses. Jesus. And he is a devout Baptist. He makes sure God's help is within everything that he tries to help his patients with. A small town family doctor. It's probably not up on his medical journals. Okay. crazy Quora question submitted by yet another misinformed, comma, lied to by Fox, comma, MAGA head. Okay, I'm going to use my whiny voice for this one. Okay. Why do Democrats try to force their views and beliefs and opinions on the rest of us? Okay, the answer by the Quora answer person. You mean like forcing girls and women to keep their pregnancies after being raped or incest? Or forcing libraries to take books off their shelves that Moms for Liberty disapprove of? Do you mean blah, blah, blah? And the answer guy went on listing these things that Republicans are trying to force beliefs on all the rest of us. Okay, last thing, good quote to end the show on. Quote, it's easier to fool people than it is to convince them they have been fooled. Who said that? Mark Twain. Okay. Okay, I am under my 58 minutes, barely. Okay, I finally did it. But there's a whole new page of notes that I will incorporate into next week's rant. And let me play my play out music.
You have been listening to The Midnight Skeptic on KPCA LP, Petaluma, California. And we're at 103.3 on the FM dial and worldwide at www.kpca.fm. Support community radio at patreon.com/Petaluma Community Access. And remember, think critically, think logically, but live joyously, and most importantly, pet your cats.
Okay, if you got a few bucks lying around, go to patreon.com and look up Petaluma Community Access and, slip them a few bucks. They need the money. I won't see any of it. I am independently wealthy. And above all, if you take anything away from the closing play out music, it's essential to pet your cat. I don't have one, and I haven't had one since mine passed away about 3 months ago. But I'm going to have access to one in about another month. My son and his wife are moving in here after they completely finish remodeling the upstairs part of the house. Okay, so until next week, I will see you then with another rant.